So, welcome to another episode of the Wealth Builder Show, where we bring you inspiring stories from real estate investors who are making a significant impact in the world of business and beyond. In this show, we not only dive deep into their career journeys and how they've helped other investors thrive, but we also explore the human side of their success, covering areas that makes us who we are today: body, being, balance, and business. So sit back, relax, and get ready for an insightful conversation. So today, I'm thrilled to have Dee Thomas with us. Dee is a real estate investor and developer based out of Southern California. He's currently investing in the state of Missouri, and his passion for real estate has inspired him to provide a better life for his family. So I'm excited to have this conversation with Dee. Welcome to the show, Dee. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. I appreciate it. I appreciate the invite.
You're welcome. No problem. So let's start with your journey. How did you first get into the world of real estate?
So I essentially got into the world of real estate a little more than 4 years ago. I had actually started a business maybe about 6 months before COVID started. And, perfect timing, right? Because all businesses starting at that point. So I started about 6 months before COVID. And because COVID hit, that just kind of tanked the entire operation as far as what was going on there. And I came across the topic of real estate investing, and I had always been interested in it to a certain extent, but then I was like, okay, when one door closes, another one opens up. So I just took that as an opportunity, like, hey, this might be something that I could, do something with for my family and for generational wealth and all that good stuff. And so I decided to run with it and been doing it ever since.
So what would you say is your favorite investing strategy and why?
That's a good question. Well, I do long-term buy and hold, but I just finished a BRRRR strategy doing long-distance investing out in Missouri on a property where essentially it was highly distressed and it needed a lot of work. Basically did the rehab so that we could pump in some value to it. So far, that's been a great strategy, just from the standpoint of getting something at a lower cost, putting a lot of value into it, and not only putting in all that hard work, but keeping it, and hopefully for the long term, and having, good renters in there that'll take care of it. So I find that the BRRRR strategy, if you're willing to take that risk, especially when you're going, from pretty much doing it out of state remotely, it challenges, but I think anybody that's willing to step up their game and take that type of risk and get a good reward out of it on the back end, that I would definitely recommend for sure. So that's one of my favorite strategies right now.
Gotcha. And what would you say is the most rewarding part about being a real estate investor?
The most rewarding part? That's a good question, because me, honestly, and I'm not just saying this because we're talking about it right now, but honestly, just I have such a passion for it. If you allow me, I can talk your ear off for 24/7 and just, everything and anything. So I can't really just say that there's one thing, to be honest. I really wish there was a more specific answer for you, but I just like everything about it. For instance, I go to the Los Angeles Real Estate Investor Association every year. Every year I go, it's like I come across something new that I've never heard of before, and that shocks me every single time. It's just super exciting and keeps you motivated. So hopefully that's a good answer for that.
Yes, and I'm glad you're going through those challenges and facing them. As it's not easy being a real estate investor, what challenges have you faced throughout your career?
I think a lot of what caught me off guard was people not necessarily saying it to your face or being explicit about it, but when you start talking about the goals that you have and the aspirations you have, just expect people to not be as enthusiastic as you are. And it makes sense because it's not easy to get into. It has a high barrier to entry. And so when you're talking about that kind of thing, I suggest being a walker instead of a talker, instead of putting it out to the world that, hey, this is an idea that I have and everything. Some people need that. Some people need that declaration to be able to put it out there and give them that motivation. But me, I'm just kind of the type where I put my head down and I just plow through and basically show my results as the proof of being able to, do whatever I say I'm going to do. That's kind of always been my approach with regard to that, though.
Gotcha. And what do you do to make sure that you stay on course to reaching your goals and not getting distracted by, all of the noise out here?
The best way that's helped me stay on course is by, everybody has their family, their friends. They want to spend that quality time with them and have that balance, and still go out and do fun things and do all stuff, and have those intimate moments and just be able to share that time with one another. But at the end of the day, you also have the other side where, especially if you're doing something, you're pursuing your passion, you want to dedicate a lot of time to that too. So I would say the best way of staying on course would be to set the expectations ahead of time, regardless of whether it's real estate or anything else. If you're planning on taking on a massive endeavor that is not just going to be something short term, it's going to be something long term, or even if it is short term, but it's a big goal that you want to accomplish. I think people know that, hey, I'm doing this thing. You don't have to go into detail, but you can say, hey, I'm doing this thing. I need to dedicate time to it because it's important to me, and I need you to be understanding as far as what I'm planning on doing. And that'll kind of show you the people that are supportive of your goals and are supportive of your aspirations, because they have that understanding and you set that precedent ahead of time. Then it's like, okay, now I can set my goals and I can stay on course without having to worry about, am I really spending enough time with this person or that person, or, are they going to think that I'm avoiding them? It's like, no, they knew ahead of time that you were busy and you're going to be tied up for X amount of time. So, and they just have to be understanding. And if they do love you as much as they say they do or care about you, then they'll understand, and and you'll make that time when you can.
Gotcha. That's great that you're doing that. So now that we've touched on your professional journey, so I want to dig a little deeper into some of the core areas that we as humans all experience. So these areas are body, being, balance, and business. So these are all fundamental in shaping not just our careers, but our lives as a whole. So let's explore how these have played a vital role in your journey. So the first area is the body. So being that body, being in shape is about maintaining good health, and that's key to performing at our best, especially in high stake roles like yours. How do you prioritize your physical health, and how has that impacted your work?
There's a lot of people that despise going to the gym. I'm one of those. It's just, for me, it's boring to lift stuff and put it back down and lift it up, and just doing typical workouts were never entertaining for me. So I knew that I had to find some other outlet. And thankfully, ever since I think I was 11 when I started, it was skateboarding was my thing. That was the thing that allowed me to get in a bunch of cardio and get in a bunch of just, a lot of core exercises to stay, physically fit as much as I can. If I was to give anybody any advice as far as staying healthy, just do whatever find is entertaining. I don't think you have to go to the gym necessarily. You can do other things that are, you even see people going and doing yoga with like goats and stuff like that, where goats will hop around on them, and do anything that you can entertain yourself at the same time, and then it won't even feel like working out. So when I'm out skateboarding, it doesn't feel like I'm working out, but the very next day my entire body is sore. So that's one thing. But then also another aspect of it that, especially since I'm getting up in age a little bit, what you're taking in food wise and supplements and things like that. So I take probably about 10 different supplements every day, and thankfully my girlfriend, she cooks some pretty good food that's also very healthy, because before we were together I didn't eat very well, so that was taking a toll on my system. But all in all, overall, that's how I kind of regulate it. I do my skateboarding and then just try and eat better, take supplements, and go from there.
Do you know any skateboarding tricks? Do you ever practice any tricks when you're out skateboarding?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I have a couple of videos up on YouTube of me, just me and my buddies from back in the day, and I got broken bones and scars to show for it. I was trying to go pro before I got into real estate and all that stuff. I thought out of high school I was gonna go pro, and I realized, oh damn, I got to put food on my plate and I got to keep a roof over my head. I have to work all the time, so didn't work. Fortunately, yeah.
Gotcha. So has there been a time in your life when your physical health, whether it was a challenge or a strength, affected your career and day-to-day work?
Oh yeah, absolutely. there are things here and there that have popped up, but from not taking care of myself, in my earlier 20s and everything, getting stomach issues and stuff like that. So that can be also difficult as well too, because when you're trying to go to doctor's appointments and things like that, it can sidetrack you from if you are working on a project. So yeah, if you're rehabbing a house or something like that, and your contractor's hitting you up, your project manager's hitting you up, there's just things coming at you left and right. And if you're sick all the time, you're not going to be able to respond to those people, and you're just going to shoot yourself in the foot. So
all those broken bones and everything, it'll be all worth it, because now you're going to re-heal and make sure that you keep your body fit and not injure yourself anymore.
Yeah, as best as I can. So,
Yes. So now the next domain is being, so which is about having a sense of purpose. And for many, a connection to something bigger, whether that's spirituality, faith, or mindfulness. How do you stay connected to your purpose in life and your work?
So I'm a big fan of quotes and motivational speeches and things like that. I remember I saw a video. I really wish I remember who it was in that video, but he basically was giving a speech to, I think it was maybe like a college class. And I remember he was basically giving his story about how he, went through struggles and then ended up becoming like CEO of this highly profitable company, blah, blah, blah. He has a 3-pronged mantra. I heard the mantra and I was like, wow, it answered so many questions that I always wondered, like, why was I successful in this area of my life? It pretty much was kind of eye-opening for me. So the first prong is be authentic. The second prong is surrender the outcome. And then the third prong is be willing to do uncomfortable work. And once I heard that, I was like, okay, so as far as that first prong, you have, be authentic. I think a lot of times, especially nowadays with social media, people are always trying to put on a face or a front. And we can't really always be our authentic selves as much as we'd like to be. So that's just like a good reminder to be authentic. And the second prong kind of leads to it's kind of a trailer off of the first one, surrender the outcome. Because when you're not necessarily, trying to control your life, but we try and control it as much as we can, but a lot of the times it's out of our control. We can do the best we can, but a lot of the times we harp on things that we can't control too much. So a part of it is just like, as long as you're being authentic in your everyday life, you can surrender the outcome, because as long as you're doing right and you're following the path that you think you should be following, whatever that path is, especially if it's a good path, then you can surrender the outcome and just know that whatever's meant to be will be. Whatever happens will happen, or whatever's meant to happen will happen. And then the third one was basically be willing to do uncomfortable work. And I realized that pretty early on. In my very first adult job out of high school, I started working at a brokerage firm, and even I was 19 years old, I had no idea even what a brokerage firm was. And I ended up working there for 8.5 years. And within those 8.5 years, I got promoted 5 times. And it wasn't because I was, the smartest guy there. I'm never the smartest guy in the room. I never think I'm the smartest guy in the room. I noticed whenever there was work or projects that were coming up, they were asking for help. I was always like, hey, I'll do it. I'm always willing to, just take on the work that nobody else wanted to do, because it either sucked or it was just something that was boring. But I was willing to do that uncomfortable work, the uncomfortable work that nobody else wanted to. So anytime a spot opened up for, a higher level position, instead of them just thinking like, oh man, who can we go to? My name would always pop up in their conversations, because they knew they could always come to me, to get work done. And it was crazy. And I had always thought to myself, like, why are they always coming to me? There's plenty of other people that have their degrees and their master's degrees and all this extra experience, but I just kept being that one. And that was the reason why, because I was willing to put in the work. So to go full circle, that's the mantra that I kind of go by as far as my belief system. As long as you follow those 3 things, then you'll be all right for the most part.
Would you say that is what drives you to continue to do what you're currently doing right now?
Yeah. I believe it or not, in my bathroom, I have it on Post-its on the mirror. So I look at it every single day, and that's, kind of one among many things. I have many things that give me motivation, but that's just one of the foundational components that I start my day with every day, for sure.
Gotcha. Now, for many, connection to God or spirituality is the center of their life. So how does your faith or sense of being influence how you approach your business and relationships?
I wasn't raised with a particular religion or anything like that. It wasn't like we went to church or anything. And so it's just not, it wasn't something that I grew up with. And I know, people have their gods and who they pray to and all that good stuff, which is fine. I think in a way, the way I kind of like to think of it is that in a sense, like God is just something that you can have faith in, that you feel that, all right, if I just genuinely, believe in this particular aspect of, why we're here on this planet and in this universe, and just having something to kind of like hold on to or something to kind of like look up to and inspire to or aspire to, that's just good no matter what form it is. I kind of see real estate as like my God, if you want to call it that, where it's like, I practice the religion of real estate because I literally think about it all the time. It's something that motivates me. It motivates me to do the best that I can, all for a lot of the same reasons, because even though I pray to the real estate guys, it's like I'm doing that because I want to provide a better life for my family, and I want to do right, and I want to do good things with my life and for other people, and that's one of the main things that why I do want to generate wealth. It's not all about the money. It's about, all right, once I get that wealth, how can I help other people, and how can I help my family and help other, people with homelessness and things of that nature. So I have a whole bunch of things on my list that my belief is driving me towards these accomplishments that I can hopefully do one day for the world. So.
Gotcha. I'm glad that you really, love to, be able to balance that family life and how you talk about, providing for your family. So let's talk about, that balance. So specifically the relationships that you have with your loved ones and close friends. So balancing work and personal life can be tough, especially in, a demanding environment like yours. So how do you maintain strong relationships with the people who matter to you the most?
If I was to give advice to somebody who's maybe struggling to keep in touch with family and friends, and because we all have a million things going on all the time, especially if you're married with kids or you have like sick relatives and people that you have to care for, et cetera. A lot of times we're so wrapped up in our own situation that we forget to check in with people, and we forget to maintain that balance with the people that we love and that we care about. So one thing that I don't know why I started doing this, but I've been doing it for as long as I can remember. It probably even just started from when I became an adult and had a cell phone. But basically what I do is especially for all the major holidays, whether it's, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, especially birthdays, I text them on their birthday, and I don't just say a little, oh, hey, happy birthday. And then, that's it. I go through like a nice little paragraph, and I customize it for every single person. I want them to know, like, hey, you're not just like an afterthought. You're like, I'm taking some time to like think about your life and our friendship. And so on every birthday, I text everybody in my phone of who I have their birthday to maintain that kind of connection. And then, they'll be like, hey, thanks for hitting me up. Let's hang out. It's been a while, blah, blah, blah. So I do that. But then also on the major holidays, on the major holidays, it definitely, it's a lot more cumbersome, but I literally go through my entire contact list on my phone, and I basically say, hey, happy Thanksgiving, hope you and the family are doing well, and I hope to see you again soon, and blah blah blah. And I do that literally every single year. And it's funny because sometimes it'll be a couple years will go by, and then if I don't see that person, or if I don't get a chance to talk to them on the phone, it'll be maybe like after that third year that I hit them up 3 times in a row, and then they're like, hey, I realized you hit me up every single year, like, how have you been?
Yes.
Then they realize, they're like, hey, nobody else does this. You're the only one that hits me up every single holiday, and blah, blah, blah. So, and that kind of warms my heart a little bit, and allows me to, kind of just take that time and show people that I appreciate them and that I haven't forgotten about them.
That's so sweet that you do that. So what advice would you give others on balancing their business with their personal life?
Yeah, it definitely goes back to the whole setting the expectations. So, yes. For instance, with my current job, I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I get to work around 6:30 to 7. I work until about 4:30, give or take. I go to one of the empty conference rooms, and then so I'll spend the next 4 or 5 hours working on my real estate stuff. And I wouldn't be able to do that, especially if I didn't tell my girlfriend, like, hey, I'm gonna be working late, and just kind of keeping that open communication, because when you're working a full-time job, and this I'm sure will speak to a lot of your audience, where it's like you're working a full-time job and you're having to do a side hustle at the same time. Like, you can't half-ass it, if that, and just really have to put in the time. And even on weekends, it's like, all right, I'll maybe use one of the days on the weekend to dedicate to my relationship, and we have 2 cats, and my cats want to hang out and have fun and stuff too. Like, so I'll usually spend a day with them, but then the other day I'll be doing my real estate stuff all day. So it's like, to kind of sum it up, it's just setting those expectations and making sure everybody's on board with your schedule essentially ahead of time.
Gotcha. So finally, we come to the area of business where you've dedicated much of your energy and expertise. What are some of the biggest lessons you've learned throughout your career that shaped the way that you approach business today?
Probably the biggest lessons that I've learned, and I think that especially with the newer generation of young adults out there,
yes,
so inundated with social media and just being on their phones and everything. That's why I'm kind of glad that I'm like halfway through that generation, where it was like I was part of the generation where I didn't get a cell phone until I think I was in my senior year of high school. So I didn't grow up with a phone, but I'm also on that back end where it's like, oh, now, but I'm kind of engulfed in the whole social media thing and everything as well too. So I think the aspect of open communication has really been hindered in a lot of ways. So, and I'm even guilty of that myself. I think the aspect of just picking up the phone and calling somebody, it works wonders in the sense of just not necessarily relaying the message quickly, but also relaying messages in a way where it gets more internalized based on tonality and all that stuff as well too. If you just are able to communicate with that person directly, it is very easy to just send somebody a text message or an email or a message, whatever the case is. But a lot of the times, a lot of things will get lost in translation. And especially, for instance, on my last project where I'm trying to communicate with the contractor, it's, he's hitting me up during my work hours, and a lot of the times I'm not able to just hop off my desk and talk to him. So I would, text message back and forth and all that. And unfortunately, things would get misinterpreted and things would be done incorrectly. And I'm the one to blame for that, because I didn't just decide to take my break and just give him a quick call. And once I realized that things were falling through the cracks, I realized like, hey, I can't just keep texting all the time. Even though my day job is demanding, I would just have to, step away from my desk really quick, get on the phone and talk to them. So try not to get too dependent on technology and just, pick up the phone and just call. And I think you build a way better rapport, especially as well too. Yeah, I think that's crucial for sure.
Gotcha. And what's something that you wish you knew about real estate investing when you first started? It's going to be a lot harder than it seems. And I think that a lot of us, we tend to think that we're going to do something or come up with an idea that nobody's ever thought of before, or we're going to be so creative that people are just going to hop on and be on board with it. But people really aren't not that people aren't supportive, but people are so, kind of like what I was saying earlier, is that people are so ingrained in their own lives sometimes. I'm going to take a deep dive into this quick answer. So one thing that I wish I would have done was, and I think this was the naivete of when you're starting off early in your earlier years, is that a lot of us will have, especially the people that are like perfectionists, that we want to do everything ourselves. Sometimes we get bogged down in like, oh, I have to do this myself. I have to prove myself. I have to, I can't ask anybody for help because I have to show them that I'm smart enough and I'm a hustler and I can handle it all myself. Yeah, that's fine and all, but I wish I could go back 10, 15 years and tell my younger self, like, dude, ask for help. If you can get a mentor as soon as possible. Don't try and think you have to do everything yourself, because literally there's not one successful person in this entire world. None of them got to where they are by themselves. At some point or another, they had to ask for help. And I know that's super difficult. Like I said, when you're starting out and it's like you want to prove yourself, but first thing, got a mentor or a coach and have been like, hey, can you
can you just can I shadow you? Can I just see what you're doing? And perfect example. So when I was first getting into it as well too, I found out that one of my coworkers, he had an apartment complex like in Westwood, and then he had another apartment complex that he owned in Hollywood. And I was like, damn, like what, like, tell me your story, like what you do. And I told him, I was like, is there anything I could do? Can I provide some value? You don't have to pay me. Like, I'll be willing to,
yes.
I can show open units, literally offering any service that I could. And he told me he had an open unit. And I was like, hey, I can take my camera. I have a camera from my skateboarding days. I can go to the unit and I can film the unit, edit it together, and then you can actually have a video of like a virtual walkthrough for you to be able to advertise the unit. And he's like, all right, and you're willing to do it for free? I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. Yeah. Went over there on a Saturday. I filmed the whole thing. I edited it and sent it over to him, and I added music to it and everything, made it look awesome. And honestly, I didn't think he was going to use it. I thought he was just trying to like kind of get rid of me. but at his listing, and he actually like posted the video online. I was like, oh, he actually used it, like that kind of stuff, because if I had a mentor or just somebody that that I was able to be coached by or whatever, they would be able to do that stuff, or let me help them, and I can learn by actually doing and get so much experience that when you start your own operation. Because then when I got my first unit, I was like, oh, I just do the exact same thing, and then I did the exact same thing with my unit, and then it got rented out super quick. So that's my answer. Yeah, I definitely get help as soon as possible. You don't try and do everything on your own, because it's like, would you rather do it all yourself and be rich, if that's your goal, to be rich in 10 years, or would you rather get some help and be rich in a year? It's like, I'd rather,
yes,
I think all of us would rather do the 1 year as opposed to the 10 years. So.
Gotcha. So as a real estate investor, you know the inner workings of the business. So what, in your opinion, what separates businesses that succeed long-term versus those that don't?
Because I've been working in finance for almost 20 years now. This goes for finance or real estate in general. But now at this point, I've worked for, I think, 4 or 5 different brokerage firms. So I've seen how the successful people have made their money and why the ones that have constant turnover and the ones that are struggle the way they do. A lot of it has to do with not setting clear expectations with their clients or customers, and not listening to their employees who are on the front lines. So I'll give you a for instance. So when dealing with financial advisors, for instance, so I've worked for ones where we deal with ultra high net worth clients, where basically like the advisor won't even talk to you as far as like managing money unless you have 10 million or more to invest. Obviously, when you have affluent clients like that, these advisors, sometimes they want to promise the world, like, oh, we could do everything and anything for you with the snap of a finger. And coming from the standpoint of being on the front lines as far as onboarding these clients and setting up their entire household and their book of business to where it's like, okay, we're going to basically be your family office, you would have to tell the advisors, like, stop over promising on these unrealistic things, and you need to the expectations that, hey, it's fine to let them know that, hey, we're going to do the best that we can for you, but it makes more sense to under promise and over deliver. If something can realistically be done within 24 hours, tell them it's going to take at least a day or two at worst case scenario, because then if you say it'll take a day or two, they're going to think, okay, if it's Monday, then I'll probably hear back from them by Wednesday. But then us knowing that we can actually get it done pretty quick, they'll come to me and they'll say, hey, can we get this, how quickly can we get this done? And let's say I get it done within a couple hours, we call the client back the same day, like, hey, we pulled some strings because you're one of our top clients, but we wanted to make sure we were able to take care of you, and we got it done today. And they're like, damn, it's Monday and the day's not even that. I'm so glad you guys got it done. So that's one big aspect of it, is that the setting those expectations. Oh yeah, not listening to your employees. I've actually done some consulting as well too. So I did a consultation. They've been in business for about 6 or 7 years, but they're still in small business phase. So they're not a startup, but they're still kind of in that groove, if that makes sense. But so they've been around for a while. They're very profitable. Making a couple $100,000 a year. They're not struggling, I'll put it that way. They're doing pretty well for themselves, but they have high turnover with their employees. And so I went in and I could see it immediately, because of the fact that I've worked for very successful teams and I've worked for very unsuccessful teams and companies. And that, oh, okay, the reason why a lot of the ones that don't make it struggle is because the people that they hire to be on the front lines, a lot of the times they've never done it themselves. So a lot of times it doesn't really come into play with startups, because when you're a startup, you're doing everything yourself. So,
Yes.
But especially with larger, multi-million and multi-billion dollar companies, I see it quite often where it's like your employees on the front line are literally telling you what's falling apart, and you're just like completely, oh yeah, we'll get to it, or we'll hire more people or whatever, and they just never get to it. And then they wonder why, they have the high turnover that they do, and why they're struggling all the time. It's basically going through the process of don't overpromise and underdeliver. Do the exact opposite. You underpromise and overdeliver so that you look good all the time to your clients.
Yes.
Same time, listen to your employees when they say, hey, things are messed up and we need to improve in this area. They're saying that for a reason, because they're not trying to think that they know better than you. They're not trying to say that they understand the industry better or they can do better. They're saying like, no, hey, I want my life as your employee to be easier, so we need to fix this. And if you fix this, by me being happy as your employee, I'm going to want to work that much harder and do that much better for you. So I know that was kind of a long-winded answer, but like, it's important, seriously.
Gotcha. So looking ahead, what are your next goals, your next big goals or projects, both in business and personal life?
Yeah, so I'm actually pretty excited as far as from the business standpoint, because one of my good buddies, he's a real estate agent. He sold me my first investment property. We just kept in touch and everything. He ended up investing out in Missouri anyways, just by happenstance. We were like, oh, hey, I'm already, investing out there. He's already investing out there. So we were like, hey, let's do some projects together. So he's actually in the process of moving out there. So he'll be my official boots on the ground as opposed to having, a project manager. So he'd be essentially my project manager at that point. But
yes.
Do some multifamily and kind of scale up and everything. So he was doing, single family, and I was focused on single family. But it's like, okay, well, if we're going to do some joint ventures, let's go ahead and do some, complexes or something, and kind of scale up and do this thing, because he was crushing it. He's got a fourplex out there right now. He did a flip not too long ago. And then, with my project that I just finished, we're just like looking for the next thing to hit the ground running with. So that's what I'm pretty excited about. And so at this point, we have a couple different arms of the business, but one of the other arms that we're working on is our private lending, or I should say obtaining our private lenders. Locked down my third private lender the other day. That could be kind of a daunting process when you're out there and you're basically, you have your pitch deck and you're going out and basically having to sell yourself. This one in particular is a good buddy of mine that I've known for a few years now, and it got to a point where he's like, hey man, you guys are really doing a lot with real estate. I have like a couple $100,000 that, I might want to put towards a project, let me know. So I was like, okay, cool. So I felt like, it was more of a long-term pitch, if anything, but,
yes.
And so it wasn't as intimidating as opposed to the ones where you have to actually you set up a call and you're like, all right, I have my pitch deck, and you're, going through it and going through all the questions. But so that's what we're pretty excited about in that regard. And then as far as, on a personal level, me and my girlfriend, we've been talking about getting married pretty soon. So that's in the works. And excited about that. And we might be moving in the next couple of years, give or take. Yeah, just a lot's going on, but a lot of good stuff for sure.
Okay. Do you all know when you plan to get married? Is it within a year or maybe 2 years from now?
In the next year or two, yeah. So should be pretty good, yeah.
Are y'all gonna get married in California, or are you gonna travel to somewhere to get married?
It'll probably, because we're thinking about maybe moving to either like Oregon or Washington, something like that. She doesn't want to be too far from her family, and most of my family. I have family in Colorado and Missouri as well too, but I'm not a big fan of the snow and the cold weather, I'll be honest. Yeah, so a little rough.
Yes. So finally, where can people find you if they want to learn more about your work and connect with you?
Right now, I have my YouTube channel. It's a Level 3 Properties, but I also have my website up. It's at level3properties.com. I am on Instagram at dt.properties, I think is my handle on there. But yeah. So I'm around a little bit here and there. And so we just started a consulting arm. So we're basically providing mentorship, accountability coaching, and general consulting.
Gotcha. All right. So thank you so much for sharing, Dee, and joining us today and sharing all of your great insights. So not only in the workspace, but as a real estate investor, but also, in your personal philosophies, so that guides your life. So it's a pleasure talking to you today, and I know that our listeners out there will take away a lot of fun stuff from all of this conversation. So to all those that are tuning in, thank you for listening. So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe and leave a review and share it with anyone who would actually benefit from this amazing insights that we've heard today. So until next time, keep pushing toward your body being balance and business.